Hello, I'm Craig Jones, Director of Engage at Churchdown School Academy in Gloucester, and I'm here to talk to you about a strategic approach to sustained ongoing improvement in student behaviour and how we're trying to achieve that within our school setting. A little bit about Churchdown before I do begin. We have 1,446 students on roll across 7 year groups, with an average of 250 students per year groups in year 7 to 11. We have a pupil premium percentage of 19.79%, and in 2024 our Progress 8 score was plus 0.93 and our disadvantage score was plus 0.92. A little bit about myself. I've been teaching now for 20 years. I was a trained PE teacher who, due to my current role, now teaches full-time within a classroom. I was a head of year for 8 years within years 9 to 11 and would rotate accordingly within those year groups. I'm an MPQ facilitator on the LBC course, and I'm now in my current role as Director of Engage. And in short, that works closely with the Senior Deputy Head Teacher within the school's Engage pillar, with the aim to ensure students are ready to learn our curriculum, ensures that parental support is high, and we aim to remove any barriers to students achieving their potential within our school. So why the need for this new role, Director of Engage? I'm sure very much like yourself, you've experienced an increased demand on the provision that your school is required to provide to your community. We found that a lot of that provision was falling upon heads of year, and the responsibilities of the heads of year was evolving dramatically, in particular within very recent years. The byproduct of that is that heads of year would be a lot more reactive in their approach within our school setting and our systems, as opposed to strategic and proactive. The idea of the introduction of the Director of Engage was it's a strategic role to ensure that everything that we put in place in our school setting is a proactive approach with the aim to prevent behaviours and not catch behaviours. In the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to focus on the area that I feel has had the greatest impact with our school community and with the ability to increase the capacity of which heads of year are working and the way that we are making the most out of the interventions that we have put in place within our school for our students. I'm sure you agree that for high-level learning to take place, behaviour must be really good within a classroom. So we've taken key questions from the MPQ course and we consistently ask those in relation to student behaviour to hopefully find the correct answers and to modify behaviour as we move forward. The first area that we look at is enabling conditions for good behaviour. We look at how we can lead staff effectively as a pastoral team. We look at who the key stakeholders are within the school in order to make sure that interventions that are put in place are really valuable and have a high impact with the students in terms of that modification of behaviour. We look at complex behavioural needs. We look at potentially what the barriers are to students meeting our expectations in our school. We look at, are there any influences that may be preventing standards from being met? We look at how we can support and help modify any learned behaviours that students may have. And we look, more importantly, at how we lead staff within our school community to support that change and modify those behaviours. Once we've done that, we move into the implementation stage and we've taken the recommendations from the EEF for school leaders, which are used to support strategies for our students. We look to put interventions into practice and treat it as a process. We look to monitor the effectiveness of those interventions, and we look to evolve and adapt where necessary to make sure that any work that we are putting into the school and into the students is having a real impact and real strategic and a proactive impact to make sure, once again, the capacity of the heads of year is maximised within that setting. So how does that look within our systems? We run a hotspot system within Churchdown School whereby students have 3 warnings within a classroom. On the 3rd warning, due to poor behaviour, they're removed and they sit at attention the following evening after school for 1 hour. What we found in previous years that we had lots and lots of data available to us, but because of the capacity that heads of year were working at, they were overwhelmed with this data and not utilising it to its greatest impact. My role has allowed us to have an early identification of any issues that may be arising, and then we look at strategic questioning that may need to be answered to ensure that the time that we are looking at and putting into modifying those behaviours is spent in the right manner with the right stakeholders within our school system. We can also thin slice within this data even further, and we can look at not just individual behaviour, but we can also look at class behaviour. And we can identify where class groups may not be meeting our expectations and the standards that we expect at Churchdown School. We can start to ask ourselves questions such as, why are the students behaving in this way? What is happening within those classrooms? What are the barriers to learning? And who are the stakeholders within our school that can help modify that behaviour, such as the heads of the department and, more importantly, the teachers? And are they accessing the teaching and learning strategies within our school that will support the behavioural strategies? We've used this process and we access this process not just daily, but we ought to do it weekly and termly, with the view that we must always remain proactive and strategic with our interventions. It also has allowed us to look at trends throughout year groups. For example, recently with our Year 9 cohort, we realised that they weren't responding in an appropriate way to all situations. So we've used in school assemblies, and we utilise school assemblies to introduce a Paul McGee strategy from the Sumo guy, E plus R equals O. The event plus the response equals the outcome. We've asked staff to use this terminology also with students. So when students are responding in a certain way, they can take accountability for their actions and they can start to understand that their response determines the outcome, whether it be positive or negative. The knock-on effect of that is we've started to realise that students have understood their behaviours and modified their behaviours. We also run a standards card system in Churchdown School, which are qualities that we need in life that all require no skill. Are students arriving punctual to school and to lessons? Are they arriving to lessons equipped? Are they wearing their uniform in the correct manner? And are they conducting themselves in the right way? These are the behaviours that we expect as a minimum at Churchdown School, but more importantly, modifying and adapting and fine-tuning these behaviours will allow students to step into the workplace, college and life after Churchdown School more positively. Previously, just heads of year would used to use this data and once again would cause them to work at capacity and overwhelm them, and as a result we would be reactive with our approaches. Since my introduction of this role, we've started to utilise the stakeholders within the school. We've started to lead year teams more effectively so that tutors and assistant heads of year can be part of the process and the early identification of problems to prevent the issues and not catch the issues. The aim of this early identification, once again, is to modify behaviours, and we use the strategic questions to make sure that we are looking for the correct answers within that modification. I've just mentioned the assistant heads of year. What we found and what we required to happen is we wanted the assistant heads of year to be part of the solution. And in order for that to happen, we needed to create a stronger pipeline and upskill the assistant heads of year within their roles. Now we're in the second year of a CPD program for assistant heads of year, with the objective of making sure they think the same of the head of year and we expose them to the requirements of a head of year within our school. The CPD program looks at things such as data, attendance, and impacting ethos and culture within year groups. Upskilling assistant heads of year has allowed them to become part of the solution within our school community. We are now in the second year of the CPD program, and as you can see, it's evolved and developed as the assistant heads of year develop their skill set within their role and be more effective as a strategic point of view and supporting their head of year. We found that this approach has relieved the capacity of the head of year and in turn had more impact on student behaviour with the increased capacity of the pastoral team. everything we do at Churchdown School and within this process, we were always thinking about the PI model, the provision, the impact, and the evidence we are looking for. We're consistently looking for the correct provision based on achieving the positive impact with behaviours, and within this process, always searching for the evidence to ensure that that impact is being achieved. This review progress within the implementation stage is ongoing. Without this process, we will never achieve the goals that we set out to achieve. That ongoing improvement in student behaviour so that we can achieve great learning and great outcomes for our students at Churchdown School Academy. If you have any questions about what we've spoken about in the last 10 to 15 minutes, please don't hesitate to reach out, ask, and I'll do whatever I can to help. I hope that you take some learnings away from what we've discussed, and I hope that you can develop some of these within your school setting.